श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददति स्वापदन्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपां साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Okay, so if I remember correctly, we're on chapter 17 today. And now we've completed sadhana bhakti and we move on to bhava bhakti. This and chapter 18 are the third wave of the first ocean. This wave is devotional service in ecstasy, or bhava, the preliminary stage of love of God. This is no longer sadhana bhakti. One at this stage is an uttamadhikari. Chapter 17 defines what bhava is and how can it be attained. So this is the third wave of the first ocean. So the first wave is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. The second wave is Raganuga Bhakti. And now this is Bhava Bhakti. This is the stage of ecstatic love. This is the stage when everything intellectual, everything kind of unimportant fades away. And one is on that level of pure love for Krishna, spontaneously attracted to Krishna. The Raganuga is solidified into Bhava Bhakti. Definition of Bhava Bhakti. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryang Susamya Bhak Ruchibhis Chittamasrinya Kridasau Bhava Uchyate. When devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a ray of the sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and it is called bhava, or emotion. When devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, It is like a ray of the sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and it is called bhava, or emotion. So this is a very important verse. You see the image of the butter melting. So pure love for Krishna is compared to a ray of sunlight, and that causes the heart to be softened. The primary characteristic of bhava, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma, it is the stage when Shuddha Sattva enters the devotee's heart. Shuddha Sattva is not the material mode of goodness, but the Lord's internal potency, whose function is to revive the living entity's dormant love for Krishna. So we have in the Bhagavatam this term Shuddha Sattva, and Sattva is the mode of goodness. And we say that how transcendental is above goodness, but it's also goodness. In other words, Krishna is all good. So what is that stage? That is Shuddha Sattva. That's the stage of goodness where one cannot come to the material mode of passion and ignorance. So this material world, the problem with the mode of goodness in this material world is that when we attain the mode of goodness in this world, we still come to, we cannot stay in that mode of goodness. We still continuously come to the modes of passion and ignorance, right? That's the problem with the mode of goodness, that we still are continuously coming to the modes of passion and ignorance. On the other hand, those in the mode of goodness, they are on that stage, and um, for some, in the material side for some time, but in the spiritual side, those who are in the mode of goodness, they can stay on that stage of mode of goodness always, and that's called Shuddha Sattva. They're always staying on that platform of the mode of goodness, because that mode of goodness is the situation where um, where it is connected with Krishna. It's not just material goodness, it's part of the Lord's internal potency. It's on the transcendental level. It's on the internal potency of the Lord. As Srila Prabhupada notes, when a person reaches the level of bhava, they are to be understood to be uttamadhikaris. So the primary characteristic of bhava is that it softens the heart. Um, it's it brings in spiritual emotion. Sorry, the primary characteristic is the spiritual emotion, the pure love for Krishna that it brings. And the secondary characteristic is that it softens the heart and it gives rise to various tastes. These are the secondary characteristics of bhava. Ruchi bhi gives rise to various tastes. A prapatti abhilasha. There's a desire to achieve Krishna on this level. Anukulya abhilasha, there's a desire to please Krishna with various services. And the third one is harda abhilasha. There's a desire to be close at heart with Krishna. So these are the three tastes that arise from bhava bhakti. There's a desire to achieve Krishna, there's a desire to please Krishna with the various services, and there's a desire to be close at heart with Krishna. Right, so here we had said there's two secondary characteristics: softens the heart, which we read in the verse also, and the second, it gives various tastes, and Rupa Goswami explains, or Jiva Goswami comments, that these are the three types of tastes that arise from bhava bhakti. Now, elevation to bhava, reaching the stage of bhava from raganuga, is possible in two ways. The first way is by constant association with devotees. This is what is mentioned in the beginning of the chapter as regulated devotional service. And there's a wonderful example of this that is given in this chapter to illustrate how one comes to bhava. And the second is by the special mercy of Krishna or a pure devotee. So we can see that coming to the level of bhava is directly related with associating and receiving the special mercy of a pure devotee. The usual method is constant association with devotees. The other is rare, so one should render service very seriously in association of devotees. An example is Narad Muni in his previous life. He served in the association of the great devotees and came to the level of bhava. Okay, so 1 second. I just want to check one thing here. Yes, yeah. So the primary characteristic is that it is a ray of the sunlight of love of Krishna. That this is love of Krishna in its purest form manifests in the heart, and it's softened. So that's the first part, softens the heart by various tastes. So it is the taste itself that softened the heart, and that's why we see that the pure devotees of the Lord are very soft-hearted, because they have pure love for Krishna within their heart. So nothing is this, their heart. We see in the process of the mystic yoga, like the yogis and the jnanis, when they advance, as they advance, their heart becomes hardened. When we perform very intense renunciation and austerities, that hardens the heart if it's done without pure love for Krishna. That's why we see that the yogis and the renunciates, they curse people and all these things, even though they're so spiritually advanced, like Durvasa Muni, because austerity generally hardens the heart. But when you do that austerity with pure love for Krishna, when love for Krishna simultaneously manifests in the heart, then it softens the heart. And so that's the stage of bhava, the primary characteristic and the secondary characteristics. That is reached by the devotee, association with devotees, the mercy of the devotees. And Krishna, of course. The mercy of the devotee means the mercy of Krishna. Krishna's mercy comes to the pure devotees of the Lord. And now, the method is the constant association with devotees, like we were saying. And now, the example of someone who although in a very, you could say, uh, neophyte stage, apparently neophyte stage of devotional life, someone comes to the highest stage of love for Krishna, or comes to the stage of bhava. The example of this is the life of Narad Muni. And this, what follows, is a very beautiful rendition of Narad Muni's life as described in this chapter, given by Her Grace Urmila Mataji. These paintings also come from some of her books that she's written for children, and in that she's described this pastime. So these are composed and written by her. Narad Muni describes his life, and he says, I was born as an insignificant son of a maidservant. Right? So she was just a maidservant. Even the identity of his father is unknown. And she was a very simple person who served in an ashram. Once, during the 4 months of the rainy season, some exalted Vaishnavas came to the Brahmana school where my mother was living. So, at this to this day in schools in India, different places, there are some, could say, full-time caretakers of the children there. These were gurukulas or boarding schools, and the teachers are brahmanas, they're renunciates. And so she was serving in that school, and she was living there. And her son, Narad Muni, was a small boy at that time. His studies had not even begun, and he was helping her. I also got the opportunity to render personal service unto them. Although impartial by nature, they blessed me with their causeless mercy, because even though I was only a small boy, I was self-controlled. I did not speak more than required. I was not naughty nor interested in childish play. Once, with their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and as a result, all of my sins were eradicated. Because of this, and due to serving such great souls, the life of devotional service to the Lord became very attractive to me. In their association, I heard narrations of Lord Krishna's transcendently attractive pastimes. By such regular and attentive hearing, my taste for such topics increased at every step. When this transcendental taste became very strong, my attention became fully fixed on hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a result, the modes of passion and ignorance vanished from my heart, and I realized myself to be different from the gross and subtle bodies. I loved those pure devotees greatly, and with very gentle behavior, I strictly followed their instructions. When they were about to depart, they instructed me in Bhakti Yoga. One day, while going out to milk a cow, my mother was bitten by a serpent and died. I took this as the Lord's special mercy. So imagine Narad Muni had no one else in this world. He didn't know who his father was. He was the child of a maidservant. He didn't have a bank balance. He didn't have anything. And then one day, the only person who was taking care of him, sustaining him, nourishing him, and he's a 5-year-old boy. It's the most traumatic thing for a small boy to lose his parents. One day, his mother is bitten by a serpent and she dies. Yet Narad Muni, just by the association of those Paramahansas, he took that to be the Lord's special mercy. He didn't feel, oh, this is unjust, this, that. But said, no, Krishna is bringing me closer to him through this. Krishna is um, doing the best thing that could happen to me. Even though I had no experience of foreign lands, I immediately left home and started for the north. Such a small boy, right? After passing through numerous cities, towns, villages, farms, forests, mountains, and valleys, I entered a densely dark jungle with snakes, owls, and jackals. Since I had become very thirsty and fatigued, I drank the water and bathed to refresh myself. Then I sat down under the shade of a great banyan tree and began to meditate upon the Supreme Soul within, as I had learned from my spiritual masters. As soon as I concentrated my mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord, it became transformed due to transcendental love. As tears fell from my eyes, Lord Shri Krishna appeared on the lotus of my heart, and then all my senses became spiritually enlivened. Thus, when the Lord vanished from my sight, I suddenly got up with great agitation. Despite my efforts to capture him with my meditation, I could not do so. Upon seeing my sincere attempts in that lonely place, the Lord, while remaining invisible, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate my sorrow. O Narada, I regret to inform you that you will not be able to see me again during this lifetime. Those who are not free from all material contamination can hardly approach me. By my mercy, neither your advancement in Krishna consciousness nor your remembrance will ever be impeded, even at time of creation or annihilation. Then that supreme authority, personified by sound and unseen by the eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. In due course of time, I met with death. Thereafter, I appeared as one of Lord Brahma's sons. Since then, I have been traveling, constantly singing the transcendental message of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called a veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. The Supreme Lord Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to hear, at once appears on the seat of my heart, as if called for as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities. So here we see Narad Muni is known as the saint of bhakti. In the Nectar devotion, he's called the saint of bhakti. And we see how Narad Muni, although born as the son of a maidservant and very ordinary life and background, he becomes the most ecstatic devotee of the Lord. He becomes Narad Muni. And what were the two things that brings him to the level of bhava, to the highest level of devotion? Just two things. One was hearing from the mouth of the pure devotees, hearing about the transcendental activities from the mouth of the pure devotees. And the second is by accepting the remnants, the prasad, from the mouth of these pure devotees. Those two things make him into a pure lover of Krishna. Just those two things. There are examples of special mercy from the Lord and his devotees. And then other examples are also given in the Nectar devotion. The girl who danced all night to get the mercy of the Lord. There's one example of a girl who dances all night, and just by dancing for Krishna, she gets the mercy of the Lord. And these souls, they are very fortunate, and also, generally speaking, they're not ordinary, right? They appear ordinary, just like a little girl, but there's some, they have a history of bhakti. Even Narad Muni, before he becomes a maidservant, I'm forgetting what the exact history is, but he was a devotee in his previous life. So there is a gradual progression. There is a progression, but it also is somewhat unexpected. That's why these examples are given. Like, no one thinks that a little girl who likes to dance will get bhava bhakti. But just by that, she pleases the Lord, and she gets that. Because the Lord is pleased by simple acts of devotion, by simplicity of heart. We may become very, very, advanced, very great, but there's no surety that we may get pure love for Krishna. On the other hand, someone who is very simply and intently uh, dancing or serving Krishna may get that pure love for Krishna out of the simplicity of heart. So Charu Rani Mataji, you raise your hand.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Prabhuji, before coming to the material world, Narad Muni was one of the Gandharvas,
Mm,
and he was cursed by Prajapatis because he, instead of praising, he did something notorious activities, so he was cursed.
mm,
And prior to that, he was cursed by Brahmaji because he refused in adding up, the uh, creation, the extension of the creating, the population.
mm. It's interesting. So that's then actually a good example. So I mean, he was an elevated soul. He was a Gandharva, but it wasn't like he was a great sage, a Muni, right? And somehow, and actually, that curse becomes a great benediction for him. He comes to this world. He associates with the devotees. So we see that the main reason is the effect of the association, right? The effect of, so we saw in the example of Narad Muni, in the life of Narad Muni, the example of receiving the special mercy from a pure devotee, as a result of that getting bhava bhakti. And in the case of this girl, we see receiving the mercy of the Lord. So we also have the famous story of the rat whose tail burns the lamp, and because of that the lamp glows more, and then he dies, the rat dies, and Krishna accepts that as service. Now, of course, that's not mentioned in the context of bhava particularly. It's not that he gets bhava after that, he gets liberation, but it's an example of the special mercy of the devotee. After that, maybe he got bhava. But yes, achieving bhava solely by mercy is not common. Srila Prabhupada says that one who expects to achieve bhava by mercy alone is like one who expects to complete college not by studying hard, but by getting an honorary degree. In the Naradiya Purana, Lord Krishna said to Narada, O best of the Brahmanas, I wish that you may develop unalloyed devotional service to me, which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness. Developing ecstatic love toward Krishna simply by glancing, Skandapuran. When the inhabitants of Jangala province saw the personality of Godhead Krishna, they were so stricken with feeling that they could not withdraw their glance from him. So, in Krishna's pastimes also, we see so many examples of the good fortune that people develop just by seeing Krishna. And this is especially the case when we see the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, where, people, they're just fortunate because the Lord embraces them. Lord Chaitanya embraces them and they get pure love for Krishna. He sees them, they see him, and they get pure love for Krishna, right? So, Kubja also, she was not a pure devotee, particularly describes before she meets Krishna. But after being in touch with Krishna, she develops pure love for Krishna. Developing ecstatic love by heartfelt wishes. So this is actually our process in ISKCON. In the Shuka Samhita, Narada tells Srila Vyasadeva, you have a son who is the greatest devotee of the personality of Godhead. And I can observe that without any following of regulated principles of devotional service, he is already enriched with many of the symptoms achieved by the execution of devotional service after many, many births. Mm. So, um, uh, so, mm. So Prabhupada writes in many purports, he writes that our process is to serve the spiritual master so nicely and the devotees so nicely that we receive their heartfelt blessings, that they want to give blessings. It's not that we are demanding blessings from them. It's not that we need blessings and we tell them, I've served you and therefore you must now give you your blessings. But we receive the blessings of the pure devotees of the Lord, the heartfelt wishes, the good wishes. So they wish good for us. They think, this person has done such nice service. Can you please help me? Yes. So that is that is the principle here. The next example of Narada saying he cannot understand the position of Prahlad is taken to be an indication that his position must have been achieved by Krishna's special mercy. Prahlad's initial attraction for Krishna was aroused by the good wishes of Narada. Prahlad's initial attraction for Krishna was aroused by the good wishes of Narada. So, like Narad Muni received pure love for Krishna by the mercy of the pure um, Paramahansas, the there's a specific word that is used in the Bhagavatam, the mercy of the Bhagavatas who were visiting him. His disciple Prahlad receives pure love for Krishna and was aroused by the mercy of Narada. And he wasn't even outside of the womb. Within the womb, he receives that pure attraction for Krishna, that initial attraction. Srila Prabhupada also mentions that the advancement of Magrari the hunter was due to the good wishes of Narada. Jesse, Magrari was a hunter. He had no qualification. He is completely unqualified to get Narada's, Krishna's love. And he becomes a Bhava Bhakta by the mercy of Narada. This is why Narada is known as a saint of bhakti, because he has the power to do these things. And Prabhupada, similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he made so many hunters into pure devotees of the Lord. This is not an ordinary feat. So many meat eaters, animal killers, so many drunkards, criminals, Prabhupada transformed them into pure devotees of the Lord. I just thinking, actually, just yesterday, I was thinking that we have, right now, a political party here in America that is calling so many people criminals. And as a result, they're exiling them, they're sending them to jail, they're sending them outside, and they're feeling very proud that, see, these are criminals, and we are finding them and we're sending them away. First of all, most likely it's not true that they are criminals, right? It's definitely not true that all these people are criminals. But even if they're true in what they're saying, even let's say it's true what they're saying, that they're all criminals, and they're being sent to jails where they'll may or may never return to any normal society without any trial, without any say, just because they're immigrants, they're being sent out to these jails in El Salvador and other places. Then what is the great result? What have they accomplished? They're identifying people as criminals and they're sending them to jails. And what did Srila Prabhupada do when he came? He took these same people who were outcast in society, who were a burden to society, or lying on the streets, and he made that section of society, the unwanted section of society, he made them into the greatest lovers of God. Right? So even if they're saying it's true that they're criminals, what is to their credit? Anyone can, put a criminal in jail. But Srila Prabhupada, Narad Muni here, they're taking the most fallen, Lord Nityananda, they're taking the most fallen and they're elevating them to the highest levels of pure love for Krishna. And that is the end of the chapter. So I'll stop here if there's any questions or comments. It's actually a very deep chapter, but a very simple chapter. And yes, Bhadra Krishna Prabhu.
To the last point that you made about the current political party putting the so-called criminals behind bars.
Mm.
But they are doing it probably out of ignorance, because Prabhupada was an elevated soul and he could purify those fallen souls. Whereas these politicians, they are not at all pure themselves. So how can we expect something what Prabhupada did for those fallen souls? Because they don't have that consciousness, they don't have that realization, and they don't even have love for Krishna. So, that's all we can expect from these people, that, okay, yeah, we find these are, you committed a crime, so you go to jail. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's
Yes.
correct, relation.
Yes, but that's the point, that in order to administer justice, Prabhupada says, the judge himself, the judge, not meaning I'm talking about the judges, but I'm saying that the people who are trying to administer justice, they themselves need to be spiritually advanced. That is the problem, you see. That is the issue. That they're so eager to call others criminals. But what is your own standard, right? Where are we at, right? What are we giving the people? You know, you see, like you see, and that is the quality of a great devotee, that they have a power to elevate people. And so Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that this society will change, right? This entire society will change when the judges of society will be wearing tilak and kantimala. And then they will be able to administer, the politicians, the leaders, they will have tilak. And then they will be able to administer justice. So that is a fact. They have no knowledge, like you're saying, that's why they're doing this. But then the leader should have knowledge. If they have the knowledge, then they can elevate society. That's one point. And the second point is, as I mentioned, that it's acting out of envy or maliciousness is different than acting out of the mode of goodness, right? So how much, these, what is the intention or the motivation in doing it plays an important role, right, Prabhu? So it's not simply to find. There's so many, like Prabhupada says, another place he says that in today's government, they catch the small criminals and they leave the big criminals. So the people are really doing something wrong. They never get tried. They remain criminals. Also, one more point in this story of Narad Muni is so nice, is that you see the example of a small boy, a child, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Right? And we may think, oh, that's Narad Muni. But this is the process that Prabhupada gave for the whole world. And we see on this call even, there's Radhika, Om, other children, that our process is simply by hearing and chanting, by engaging in the process of hearing and chanting, everything becomes fulfilled. Even our younger generation, even the children in this movement, the youth in this movement can become pure devotees by the association of pure devotees. And association means by hearing from them, by associating with them, and that transforms their life. And Vaisheshika Maharaj, he speaks regularly to many young people, and he was telling me one time. He said that my process is just to do hearing and chanting. If we do the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, this is what he said. My process is Shravanam Kirtanam. If we do Shravanam and Kirtanam with the youth, then everything else comes from it. The relationships, the friendships, everything else comes from that Shravan Kirtan. And you practically see that the group that he is guiding, most of them have taken initiation from him. They're taking, chanting 16 rounds. They're leaders in the temple. They're running, different departments of all of his preaching projects. And they go to regular high school, regular colleges. They're just regular youth. But it's his process. And that process is the same process that went to Narad Muni. So it's not that Narad Muni was someone of the past ages, or that this is just even for adults. We've been talking about, these things, but it's for everyone. Nowhere in the Shastras does it say that this process of bhakti, it works for adults, but it doesn't work for youth, that it will have no effect on the youth or the children. By the examples of Narad Muni and so many other, Prahlad Maharaj is now being given also, we see that it works on everyone. But we have to be willing to do the process, right? That is the problem, that we don't engage ourselves in that process. Anyone who hears and chants about Krishna, their heart will melt, because what the power is not in the person, or the power is not that one person is qualified or the other person is unqualified. We are all unqualified. Everyone is unqualified, but the power is in the process. If we do the process and all we do is we sit with our children and we hear and chant with them, right? We read Bhagavatam with them. We hear classes of wonderful souls with them. We associate with devotees. We engage in kirtan. We engage in chanting the holy name of Krishna. It will work. Just the atmosphere needs to be there and the association of the pure devotee. So it is also his own purity that attracts. And I had this experience recently where um, he invited us to attend to attend his youth jam because he likes to. So he invited, and there's a group of youth here. So the youth jam happened, and he was having each youth read. And after 20 minutes, I was thinking, this is quite boring. I was thinking, what will the youth like it or will they not? You know, like this is quite boring, you know. I don't think they'll come next time. But then by the end, it was amazing. Like everyone, I mean, materially speaking, my point is from the material point of view, just a simple reading session and all these. But by the end, it was like, oh, this is so wonderful. I want to go next time. I want to do this next time. I want to attend it next time. And you could see that this is the power of the process. His process, which is saying you do this, and everything else automatically comes. And he has some of the most. I mean, he's kind of as they say, nothing speaks better than results. Through his results, he's showing it. He doesn't have to make his case or argue that this is a good process. Just by his results, he's kind of uh, breaking the norm, where young second generation devotees who are 17, 18 years old are now, they have initiated names and they're like more strict than their parents are in their spiritual practices. He's doing miracles there. Like, and now all around the world, he's franchising it in different places in Toronto, in somewhere in the south also, and then of course California and in Silicon Valley, Laguna Beach. So this is the miracle of these two things: association with the devotee and getting the mercy of a devotee. And Prabhupada says association means hearing from them and serving them. Yes. Other comments and questions before we have Haripriya's summary, wonderful summary. Rasika Sundari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Also, really nice to hear about Narad Muni. Because today being appearance day of Srinivas Pandit,
Oh,
and he also is
he's Narad
Narad
Muni.
Muni.
Yes.
So really nice coincidence.
Yes, see, the Lord is so kind, actually. Wow. Thank you for mentioning that. And it's a very special day. Um, so uh, this is Srinivasacharya is one of our great acharyas. And he's Narad Muni. He's one of the Panchatattvas. And so many pastimes Lord Chaitanya did with him. We see he has such an important role in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Pankaj Prabhu, do you have something?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Just to, again, Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranam. Yeah, coming back to previous question, right? I was thinking about it, and I was thinking like, when you Sarva Karana Karanam, right? When we say God, everything is happening by God wish, right? So it's not that we should take it that way, that yes, whatever is happening is good, and that's the way it's supposed to happen, based on karmas and, prarabdhas and things like that. Because the same thing happened with Duryodhan also, right? He tried, but nothing happened. So,
He tried what? What did he try, Duryodhana?
like no, Krishna tried to convince Duryodhana
Oh, I
that
see.
if you
Yes.
give us, right, but that he didn't listen, right? So end of the day,
Yes. No, actually, you bring up a very good point. I used to wonder about this also. That, like we say, okay, the pure devotee can melt the heart of anyone. Yet, Narad Muni, he approaches Kansa also, right? He approaches Prahlad Maharaj. He also approaches Kansa. He approaches Magrari, who's a hunter. And Magrari's heart changes, but when he visits Kansa's heart doesn't change. And I was hearing the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and in that section, there's a section where Haridas Thakur, he is, that famous story where the Nawab and the Qazi, they catch him because he's a Muslim who's turned into Hindu. And they tell him, you must give up the holy name of Krishna. If you don't do that, we're going to beat you in 21 marketplaces, right? So, so that fast time is there. And in that fast time, it's described as Haridas Thakur, who's, Namacharya, like there's no devotee who's equal to him. It's actually described, he's the greatest of Lord Chaitanya's devotees. And of course, they're all the greatest. This is all transcendental, calculation. But just by seeing him, people's hearts would melt. He had a beautiful complexion. He had a beautiful form. So he goes and he speaks in the Nawab's assembly. And when he speaks there, it's said that everyone's heart melts. Because his mercy is so strong. He's such a pure devotee. When he speaks, everyone's heart melts. Except the Chaitanya Bhagavad says that his words cannot penetrate the heart of the Qazi, because the heart of the Qazi is so full of envy for Haridas Thakur that his mercy and words are not able to penetrate his heart. So, yes, the devotee of the Lord transforms everyone. It can transform anyone and everyone, except if we are offensive towards that very devotee or the Lord. If we're offensive towards the devotee of the Lord, then that mercy doesn't penetrate our heart. Just like Jaga and Madhai, right? They're the greatest of sinners. But Lord Nityananda's mercy was able to penetrate their heart, because though they were sinners, Chaitanya Bhagavat specially mentions, they were not offenders. They did not offend the devotee of the Lord, but they were just sinning. And so Lord Nityananda liberated them. But when we offend a devotee of the Lord, then what happens is that then what happens is that um, uh, uh, that mercy becomes blocked, because that mercy cannot penetrate the heart because of that offense from the very source of mercy, towards the very source of mercy. And then that person has to wait. So Kansa was offending Vasudeva and Devaki, right? So much. They put him in jail. He killed their first 6 children. So Narad Muni's mercy could not penetrate his heart. He had to wait until Krishna punished him. He broke that down. Still, they will get mercy. He got mercy because he was chastised by Krishna. But he had to wait a long time before he gets it. So they will all get it, but they have to wait. Duryodhana, same thing. He was so offensive to the Pandavas. He tried to kill them, poison them, burn them. So he cannot receive that mercy, right? He first has to get punished.
No, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Of course, Krishna is all powerful. If he wants, he can even liberate him. But the Lord doesn't do it because he loves his devotees. His devotees are more dear to him himself. So the Lord feels anger. He says, no, I'm going to punish you first. So you understand, so that you don't do this again. That's why. Yes. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. I think that's all. So Haripriya, you can summarize.
Yes, true. So we can see that Shuddha Sattva, it means the Lord's internal potency. So one should not be confused that it means mode of goodness. It means the Lord's internal potency. And then we can see that as soon as one comes to the level of bhav, he is known as Uttam Adhikari. And then we can see that bhav bhakti, so it means that the desire. So first the desire to please Krishna, then the desire to serve Krishna, and then the desire to be close to Krishna. And then coming to the level of bhava, so we can see that the association and special mercy of the devotee is important. An example is Narad Muni in his previous birth. And then we can see that one can develop ecstatic love towards Krishna, even by glancing. Examples are the inhabitants of the jungle province. And then one can also develop love of God or bhav bhakti by developing heartfelt wishes. Two examples are of Mrigari and Prahlad Maharaj. When Prahlad Maharaj he heard from Narad Muni in his mother's womb. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And your summary reminded me that on the Bhava platform, we can come to the Uttamadhikari platform. We are on the Uttamadhikari platform once we are on the level of Bhava, right? Because that's a point I forgot to mention in speaking. And yet at the same time, on the Bhava platform, one can still fall down. Because only on the stage of prema one never falls down, but on the bhava platform one can fall down, like Bharat Maharaj. He was on the level of bhava, yet he still fell down. He was on bhava, but he fell down by becoming attached to a deer. So Prabhupada describes that even on the level of bhava, one can still fall down. One has to be still careful, which means that even an uttamadhikari can fall down. So oftentimes people say, oh, what is this? He's Uttamadhikari. How then all of this must be false? If he's pure devotee, how could he have fallen down? He was my spiritual master. You know, some gurus have fallen down. How can he fall down? Because even on that stage, one can fall down. And it's there in the scriptures. So we should not feel dejected or bewildered by that. But the fall down is temporary. Once on such a high level, one makes a mistake, and after 2 births, Bharat Maharaj was back to his normal situation of Krishna consciousness, but even more so, he became even more intensely Krishna conscious. Yes. So Charu Radharani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have a little doubt and question. I mean, not doubt, but question on this, like fall down. I've seen many devotees talking like, don't do this, otherwise you'll fall down. You'll fall down in your spirit at the spiritual level. So many times the thought comes into my mind is that rather than focusing on your bhakti, you are focusing more on, do's and don't. Okay, this is a fall down, don't do this. You're more scared. So when you are more scared, I mean, you don't have to do something that comes from within your heart, that, okay, I don't have to do this. Intentionally, you will not do it. But when you keep focusing on it, like this will lead to my fall down, this will lead to my fall down, then you are distracted. That's what I feel. And this confusion is always there in my mind since this topic came. So I, I'm a little confused. Like, one should focus on bhakti, or one should always, being more on like, okay, this will be my fall down, I should not do this. This will be my fall down, I should not do this. Then, yeah, you don't have time for your own bhakti, your own, spiritual progress. It's more of like, okay, fall. I personally believe if there is a fall down, you'll realize it and you'll start rising again.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, at the same time, it may be too late, right? Too late in the sense that then we have to go through so many years of reaction, and having every devotee experiences that. So having experienced that myself, it's not a good. It's very troublesome. And then you think, well, why get into that offensiveness, right? Why get into it? Like it has such a vast effect on one's life that it's just not worth it. And that's why Prabhupada says that a devotee is always very cautious. And we see that Bharat Maharaj, when he comes back as Jad Bharat, this is why he's like cautiousness, to the point of paranoia, where he doesn't want to like even act as though he wants everyone to think he's deaf and dumb, because a deaf and dumb person cannot cause anyone any harm, cannot get attached to anything, cannot cause an offense. They'll just pity him, and that's how he wants to be, right? Because he only wants to make advancement. He doesn't want to cause an offense and fall down. So it's a good mindset to be in, to be always cautious of fall down. Now, like you are saying, we should not be so obsessed with falling down that we're not serving Krishna. That, oh, I won't do this service because I could become proud and therefore I fall down. I won't do this service because if our spiritual master asks us to do a service, if the senior devotees ask us to do a service, then we should step up to it and we should do it, because disobeying their instruction is also an offense, right? So our cautiousness should not turn into false humility, which is that the instruction is there, but we're disobeying the instruction because I'm not advanced enough. I'm not advanced enough. No, we would not receive that instruction if we were not meant to do it. We must do it. So that much is too much, like you're saying. If that worry, a fall down, inhibits us from doing our service, then that's on the mental level. Then we're coming on the mental level. But if we are doing our devotional service and we're cautious that I don't want to fall down, I don't want to offend the deity. Let's say we're pujari. We're doing our pujari service, but we're always cautious. I don't want to cause an offense to the deity. Then that is very nice. Because I think Prabhupada said, but anyway, it's in the scriptures, that two people are most likely to fall down. Like most, it's most possible for them to fall down. One is the pujari on the altar, because they're directly in touch with Krishna, so it's very easy to offend the deity. And the second is the personal servant of the guru, the person serving the guru, because, which we see very often, you can think of the guru as ordinary. Oh, he's getting a health problem, he's just like me. Or he's getting a health problem, so he's, he's has a material body like I do. So those are things that are very dangerous. So we have to be very cautious. Prabhupada says spiritual life is like walking on a razor's edge. This is Prabhupada's example. It's walking on a razor's edge. If we go to material life, we're finished. If we go to spiritual life but we do offenses, we're also finished. So it's like walking on a razor's edge. And that's why I said we shouldn't be surprised if someone falls down, because so many people will fall down and have fallen down, and the Bhagavatam is full of fall downs. But we should be surprised if someone succeeds. So that means that's how common it is. That's how careful we must be. We should be surprised if someone succeeds. And that's why we, as devotees, we face so many challenges, and we different challenges, because it's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that the path to Krishna is not soft, it is filled with thorns, like Jesus said. And then he quotes some Bible passage that the path to God is filled with thorns. So yes, so it's a razor's edge. We have to be very careful.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. But one more point to that we should be careful for ourselves, right? We should not, I think part of your question was that also, that we should not, as far as possible, not go to other devotees and tell them, you will fall down, you'll fall down. Unless necessary to warn them, maybe, or maybe we're in the situation of guiding them, then we can forewarn them. We're, mentoring them or whatever, then there's more of a reason. We should be hard on ourselves, but soft on others. So to your point, if devotees are telling other devotees, then that may be a problem. It's for us to be careful, because we should be careful for ourselves. Yes. Rashmi Mataji, you can go first.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, everyone.
Yeah.
Just another point that came to my mind is that the Bhagavatam is also full of stories that show Krishna's mercy, even for somebody like Putana, who was elevated to the same status as Mother Yashoda, or a Jamila. And so I just feel, on the same topic, talking about offenses and approaching it from, I guess, a place of fear. What has worked for me is to remember the Lord's mercy and then just surrender and say that I know I'm fallen. I know I make a lot of mistakes. Please guide me. I do want to get better. I just feel this is something that's worked for me, and I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful point that you have made. Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, because I have like when I started coming to ISKCON, many of the devotees were telling me, that you should not often come to regular come to visit to ISKCON, because more of Vaishnava Aparadh will happen. Because when you are new, you just come from material world. You're not aware of you should not do so the frequent visit should not be there, because to avoid the Vaishnava Aparadh, it will be fall down. I said, I have not even started raising up, and you're talking about fall down. And I was listening, and then I know it's Krishna's mercy that I was regularly coming, and
No, I think that advice is that must have some other motivation to it, because why coming to ISKCON will cause fall down. I don't understand that. That's maybe they don't want you to go there. That's why they're saying that. I don't know. Because the offenses come when we in service, right? Just attending a program, how is that offensive? Like when we serve, and that's what I thought you meant when you were saying that in the example helps, because I thought you meant like going on the altar or interacting, in our services with other Vaishnavas. Then we have to be careful, yes. But attending, I mean, that is our process. That's the association with devotee that leads to bhava bhakti. Narad Muni associates with the Bhagavatas, therefore he becomes a Bhagavata. If we don't go and associate with the devotees, then what is left for us? So yeah, yes. Thank you for clarifying that. So yeah, no, that's why I'm saying that concern about offenses should not stop us. It should not be so much that it stops us from doing our devotional service. The most basic being attending the programs and hearing and chanting. But it should make us cautious while doing our devotional service. Right? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. And Bhadra Krishna Prabhu, you had something, or maybe he left. Okay, so we will stop here. Thank you, everyone, for your very kind association and um, company. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Prabhuji. Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.